Welcome, everyone, to Topic Wonders number 12. I am your host, Matrix Lord 212, and I'm with Steampunk Star Raisin.
Hey, of EverStreet.com. Hello.
All right, so what's the topic tonight, Steampunk?
Well, Planet 9, which they say has been discovered, but they haven't directly imaged the planet. They're currently searching for it, and there's several displaced Kuiper Belt objects. Kuiper Belt object being like Pluto, the dwarf planet Ares. Some of their orbits are erratic, and they're pretty sure through circumstantial evidence they've discovered evidence of a ninth planet.
Which technically this was the Planet X that we've heard about since the 70s, but it's been retitled Planet 9 because of the Pluto being no longer a planet, and now we're short a planet, right?
Correct, yeah, because there's been some circumstantial evidence for a while, but they've seen some recent Kuiper Belt evidence that the displacement and weird elliptical orbit of some objects seems to suggest a planet with a mass about 10 times the mass of Earth. So basically a planet about the size of Neptune.
Okay.
I believe, based on the circumstantial evidence, it does exist. They're trying to do imaging from telescopes, but it's going to be very difficult because they have a rough idea where they think the orbit of this planet is, and it's about 600 times dimmer than the light coming from Pluto. And Pluto is already a very dim object, very hard to spot on a telescope. So it's going to be very hard before they can find direct evidence of it. But yeah, if it does exist, I think that it's going to be probably similar to Neptune in configuration. It's probably going to be a small gas giant, and like with all gas giants, they're so big and massive, they generate their own heat and radiation. So it won't be like a frozen planet like Ares or Pluto. Well, Pluto's a frozen planet, but it has its own like frozen geology. That's another full story.
Now,
but
why is it that in the 70s, 80s, 90s, year 2000, 2010, now we're in 2016, all these decades, with all the technology that's advanced, where we can see one end of the universe to another end or another, whatever, so EFA, how could we not know in our own backyard that this exists beyond a shadow of a doubt? Like, what is the problem that, like, we just can't find that pinpoint that this exists or not?
Well, I mean, it's very far out, and some people would even say Planet 9, or what was formerly known as Planet X. And some people still nickname it Planet X because it hasn't.
I call it Planet X, but yeah,
because it hasn't been formally named. But it's so far out. Some people would even argue that it may not even be in our solar system by definition, but it does orbit around the sun, so that fits the loose definition of being in our solar system because it's an elliptical orbit. But its elliptical orbit is very erratic. Based on circumstantial evidence, I've got the Wikipedia article here. It's about 200 AUs. 200 AUs, an AU astronomical unit. It's the distance between the sun and the Earth. So it's 200 AU in distance out at its closest approach to the sun, up to 700 AU. And it's obviously a very dark planet because it's so far away from the sun. It reflects very little sunlight, and they said it's about 600 times dimmer based on calculations. They estimate this planet's about 600 times dimmer than Pluto. And Pluto is a very dim planet, not reflecting much sunlight. So that's part of the reason. And, you have a lot of problems with atmospheric disturbance with, Earth-based telescopes. And, you have the Hubble telescope, which is able to see deep into space. And, there's some things that, that you can see deep into space, and sometimes you can be hard to see in your own backyard.
Right.
We're advanced in some things, and some things we're not.
We still can't even get all the species right on our own planet, under the water. So, we still find new species new forms of life on our own planet every day, every year, new type of shark, new type of things. So, another question is, this planet X, or whatever we call it, right? is there another source of energy that's the equivalent of the sun? Because I've heard stories that a black hole or something could generate enough heat to support life on the planet, or something. It's theorized.
Well,
Could there be something in the Kuiper belt where there's like radiation or comets or something that could generate enough energy to make there have some type of form of life?
well, I don't think it's a black hole or singularity because black holes emit a lot of X-rays. There's indirect evidence for black holes because black holes don't emit any light. They absorb
But
light.
light has come
but
from
they
black
do.
holes lately. There's been stuff
Well,
that's been shooting out of.
Well, you can see X-rays shooting out of a black hole. That's one of the byproducts of black hole. They emit a lot of X-rays, and so you'll usually see like a black disk. There was a guy. I was flying back from Barcelona. There was I happened to be sitting close to an astrophysicist, and he showed he was looking through a radio telescope at the center of the Milky Way, and there's like 50 stars that are orbiting around like this really tight sphere. And
that alien they joke that it's an alien superstructure.
No, it's just a singularity. There's a dark zone because light can't escape a black hole or a singularity. I prefer to call it a singularity.
Well, we still have to. We actually, on another topic, one is we should continue talking about that superstructure that they had guessed that was built. We'll talk about that.
Oh, that's on a planet. Yeah, that's because of 25% of the starlight. Yeah, I can't remember the planet's name. That's because it doesn't have a formal name. It has a number designated.
Dyson sphere or something.
Yeah, some people theorize a Dyson sphere, but yeah, that's another whole topic.
We'll do that another time.
If you know anything about like gas giants, like I theorize this that like Planet X or Planet 9 is a gas giant. It's theorized to be 10 times the mass. This is based on.
Well, before we talk about gas giants, right? Let's talk about our own solar system, right? Isn't Jupiter like a gas giant?
Yeah, that's what I was actually getting at. Is what you don't realize is Jupiter is very much like a brown dwarf star.
And isn't Saturn like a gas giant?
Yeah, Saturn's a gas giant. So is Neptune. So is Uranus.
Neptune and Uranus.
And that's the thing I was trying to explain.
There's moons too, right? Isn't there like?
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay,
this is what I'm getting at because I'm not an expert by far. I want to let your audience know I have a background in art, but I am an intense fascination with astronomy and I read a lot. Anyway, there's like a lot of noise went away. I heard some noise there for a second. I guess it was interference on my headphones. Jupiter is like a mini solar system, if you haven't already noticed. And that's because Jupiter is almost a brown dwarf star. It wasn't quite massive enough to ignite into its own sun, but its composition is very similar to our own sun as far as the elements and the materials. It did not ignite. But Jupiter is not a giant ice planet, and the reason for that is because Jupiter has enough mass, and it's like getting 200 times the mass of Earth. Jupiter has enough mass that it generates its own heat and own radiation, and so that's why, you have volcanic planets like Europa. Europa is a very volcanic planet, very geologically active. I wouldn't want to be on the surface of Europa, but Europa being a planet, they had planet-sized moons. Titan is a planet-sized moon, and the geology is being fueled partially by tidal forces with the gravitational interaction between these planet-sized moons and Jupiter, and the heat radiation coming off Jupiter. Jupiter actually generates a lot of heat, even though it's not ignited, just because it's so massive. And so the optimism I have, this could bring potential for life, is if this Planet X or Planet 9, whatever you want to call it, is a Neptune-sized object, it's probably a gas giant, and it probably generates its own heat and radiation, and it could expand the potential for life instead of just being a frozen dead planet. It could even have planet-sized moons. Sorry, hopefully I didn't over-explain or talk over your head there.
No. Now, I want to go over this now. There are 8 planets, right? I think
there are 8 planets.
Mercury is the one closest to the sun, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Mercury's very interesting.
Now that's a rocky planet, right?
Yeah, it's basically Mercury. Billions of years ago, Mercury used to be much larger, and the surface got blasted away from being so gravitationally close to the sun. But what you have with Mercury has got an intense magnetic field because it's basically a planet made of mostly just iron. It's like you took the planet Earth and you stripped away everything except for the molten core, and then the molten core kind of hardened, and then that's what you had left as a planet. So Mercury used to be much bigger, but because of, interplanetary collisions and being so close to the sun, the surface got blasted away over billions of years, and that's all you have is the iron core. So
it's basically a planet of minerals.
It's iron. Yeah, I mean, it's all planets have minerals on them.
Right. But I mean, there's no trees. There's no some of that stuff doesn't.
There's no life. I mean, trees would be living. But yeah.
Right.
As far as we know, the only life that we know of is on planet Earth. There might be some evidence of life on Mars, but there's mixed results of that, and the results of whether Mars had life or still currently has life is controversial. If Mars does have life, it's probably microscopic.
Or it could be under the ground, or
it could be underground in the underground reservoir where there is still some running water, apparently.
Right. Now, there was also talk that the Pluto moon could support life, right? Wasn't it one of the moons of Pluto? Was it one of the moons of Jupiter? I forgot. That it was ice or something.
Titan? You're talking about Titan? That's actually, Titan is the moon of Saturn. Apologies, I think I said Jupiter. Okay. Titan's the moon of Saturn. Titan has potential. The problem with Titan is it's extremely cold. Titan has a very active geology. There was an unmanned spacecraft that landed on the surface, and it has oceans of liquid methane. And it's the thing that really surprised scientists when, I think it was in 2006, I can't remember what year exactly, it was relatively recent, when the unmanned spacecraft landed on the surface of Titan, took all the photos as it was landing, as it was slowly descending. And I'm amazed how similar the geology of Titan is to Earth, but if you were to land on the surface, you'd have to have a very enhanced spacesuit to survive that kind of climate.
Was that craft destroyed on Titan, or was it?
Well, it stopped working after a couple hours. It froze. I mean, it's talking about temperatures cold enough for liquid methane oceans. Normally on Earth, methane exists as a gas, as a greenhouse gas, but on Titan, it's cold enough it's liquid. And so you're talking at temperatures that are close to absolute zero, maybe 30 degrees warmer than absolute zero. I mean, like over negative 200 degrees, And so you would have to have a very enhanced spacesuit. But there is I think Titan has a nitrogen and some trace elements of oxygen. And so in theory, you could have a rebreather that the atmospheric pressure is less than ours. But you could land on the surface of Titan and have a rebreather suit that would repressurize that oxygen.
Yeah, we still have the probes that are working on Mars, right?
Well, yeah, some of the rovers have stopped working, but I think there's still one that's still working.
Okay.
And there's a Mars orbiter spacecraft. I can't remember. There's a Mars orbital spacecraft that still works. There's a European spacecraft too that's in orbit.
So it revolves around Mars and it's still there.
It's still sending data back, radar information.
Okay.
I think one of the.
Well, what about the probe that went to Pluto? Isn't it still there, or?
Yeah, it's going on into the deeper part of the Kuiper Belt. I don't know if its trajectory would intercept Planet X or Planet 9.
But we're still going to be getting stuff for another 10 years, right?
Yeah, we're still going to be getting stuff. They're going to be exploring other Kuiper Belt objects. I hope they go to Aries. Aries is actually bigger than Pluto. But and there's Maka. I'm not kidding. It's spelled like Mick. I used to joke it's
That's a planet.
I used to joke and say Planet Mick, but it's named after a Hawaiian god, Maka. It's a red planet. It's a Kuiper Belt object. It's slightly smaller than Pluto. It's a dwarf planet, and I'm hoping that the spacecraft, the New Horizons.
There was also, they named the Gallifrey planet, right? Didn't they name the planet after Gallifrey or Vulcan or something? Or
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Wow, New Horizons got a Twitter. That's silly. I guess NASA updates it indirectly. But the New Horizons Twitter feed's got 277,000 followers. A lot of people like astronomy. But it's good to know that I'm not the only one. Hold on. Yeah, New Horizons, which was launched, yeah, that's the name of the spacecraft. I was correct. I just wanted to double check my facts because sometimes I'm wrong. I'm really bad with names too. But the New Horizons spacecraft is going to be continuing for the next 10 years exploring other Kuiper Belt objects.
And what's Chariot? Is that a moon of Pluto or is that a moon of
Charon, I think that's the way
it's CH.
Charon, that's a moon of Pluto it's slightly smaller than Pluto, but it's a very large moon.
Okay.
From what I understand, Charon.
And there's
Charon,
Pulsar.
It kind of looks like our moon. It's a kind of geologically dead moon. It's not as interesting as Pluto itself.
There's also the planet Quasar, right?
Yeah, there's characterize the neutral atmosphere of Pluto. I'm looking at the mission goals of New Horizons. Search your atmosphere. Okay, and the last objective is conduct similar investigations of one or more Kuiper Belt objects. So it's going to go explore more of the Kuiper Belt. So maybe we will, in the near future, get some more imaging back of other Kuiper Belt objects. I hope it goes to Maka or Aries.
Yeah, I think in a future Topic Wonders episode, we're going to have graphs and we're going to show all the moons of each planet that we know of in our solar system, the 8 planets.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we're going to try to have a whole diagram with the Kuiper Belt, and we're going to try to show all the new planets or what we know of.
Well, I agree with classifying, I don't know, you may not, but I agree with reclassifying Pluto as a dwarf planet. Because otherwise you would have to say the solar system has like 40 planets.
You know what? I would be the one to reclassify Pluto to make it a planet. Because, again, I feel that my thoughts differ from this whole dwarf nonsense garbage. I mean, you could find that a dwarf planet has life, and then they're going to be like, oh, no, it's a planet, it's not a dwarf. It's like these stupid classifications. I think they should get rid of that and just, yeah, so what if there's 40 planets in the solar system? So what?
Okay. Fair enough.
You know?
Fair enough. I mean, the
there's
series,
no limit. There's like no, you don't. It's not like, oh, there has to be 9 planets per solar system. I mean, you could have 50. It doesn't really matter.
There's an object like Ceres, used to be considered an asteroid, is now also considered a dwarf planet. That's the interesting thing about Ceres is still considered an asteroid, but it's also defined as a dwarf planet, and it's also a planetoid object. So
and what about Sedna?
Those things. What?
Sedna.
Yeah, Sedna is a dwarf planet.
Okay.
And a Kuiper Belt. And a Kuiper Belt object.
I don't about it that much, but I am also into astronomy.
Well, Sedna is almost the same size as Pluto. it's a pretty big dwarf planet. I mean, you're talking about at least several hundred miles in diameter. I mean, I know like Ceres is 600 miles in diameter. That's, you were to land on Ceres is round. Does not look like an asteroid to me because it's round. And if you were to land on it, it's big and massive enough that it has an equator, it has north and south pole. It would look like a planet when you landed on it. It's big enough. And that's the one thing about Ceres is that they theorize, short of sending, they want to in the future possibly send a probe to land on the surface and possibly drill in to the crust, because they think that below the crust there could be ice, and below that ice there could be a liquid ocean below the surface.
I think they should do that.
Yeah, because it could be a possibility for life.
I have a feeling they're going to reclassify the planets again. I have a feeling that this year Pluto's going to be renamed a planet.
Yeah, I know that there's alien life out there. I just know it just because of statistical probability.
You could have an amoeba in a water, and that's alien.
Yeah, that would be alien life. I mean, there's like 5 definitions of life, but we're
gonna have something come up. They're gonna find something, I'm sure.
But I mean, the saddest thing to me is I will probably die without ever seeing what alien life looks like on another planet.
I doubt it. We'll find something.
Well, yeah, I hope. I mean, because the importance of finding alien life would be to find alternative evolution, parallel evolution.
First of all, the moment you find an amoeba, then everything is off. All bets are off, because there's somewhere deep, far away, that there's intelligence somewhere.
Well, yeah, and there's so much, like if it had a different type of reproductive structure, if it had different types of DNA that were not rooted in evolution on planet Earth, then we could learn so much from just one, even microscopic alien life. We could learn so much more about ourselves and where life came from and how life started, because it's very...
Because you could say, like, that the comets have DNA from different worlds that just going through the atmosphere and just, like, it's like dropping off pollen or seeds or stuff to other planets.
Well, they have different hydrocarbons, which are the building blocks for life.
Right.
Yeah. There's different types of hydrocarbons, different molecules, including ice water. Some people theorize that's where the majority of the oceans on Earth came from. It's from early planetary comet collisions.
Right.
Because originally the atmosphere on Earth was originally carbon dioxide, and most of the oxygen that we breathe today is a result of blue-green algae. Because blue-green algae feed off that. The original, the first signs of life on planet Earth were 4.5 billion years ago, and it was just microscopic bacteria. They find some fossils of bacteria, blue-green algae, and and the atmosphere was much different back then. There was a lot of volcanoes, volcanic. It was the atmosphere was mostly CO2, and it was the blue-green algae that converted a lot of that over hundreds of millions of years. And so it's possible, I mean, like some people talked about terraforming Mars. What you would need to do is you could take like a couple hundred tons of blue-green algae and dump it into the atmosphere, because Mars's atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide. And it's also, the pressure is much lower than our atmosphere.
So you're saying that we could alter the atmosphere to make it habitable?
Yeah, but it would take about 200 million years with known technology that we have today. And there's also, before you'd want to do that, before you tamper with the ecosystem, I mean, there is an ecosystem of sorts on Mars. Before you tamper with the environment of Mars, you want to make sure that there's not already life there, because then it can get confusing. And some people theorize that maybe microscopic life popped up on Mars first and then got transported here by asteroid. But,
Right.
Neil deGrasse Tyson has even suggested that theory. But And that's why, like, one of the Mars rovers is actually within, I think, 50 kilometers of where they discovered water on Mars. But it hasn't been properly desanitized, and they're worried it might contaminate the environment. So they want to send a future mission there with a rover that's been properly sanitized, so that way, if they do find life on the waters of Mars, they can say that it didn't come from Earth; it came from Mars.
Okay.
You know, because the problem you would run into on Mars is like, well, what if life originally originated on Mars? 3.5 billion years ago, Mars used to have water and atmospheric pressure very similar to Earth's. And then over time, because it doesn't have a magnetic field, over time it got blasted away by solar radiation from the sun into space and became very thin atmosphere. And then, you know, for the most part, water can only exist for a very short time on the surface in liquid form because of the low atmospheric pressure. And so if life did come from Mars, you know, we would never know it if we contaminate it with bacteria from our bodies.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful with the protocol because you could lose some very important data. You know, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Correct.
And that's the important thing. And so I think it would be even more fascinating if you did find microscopic life on Mars and it was entirely different than what we know. We could learn so much about the evolution of life. Go ahead.
I know. I want to say that if any of you subscribers out there are interested in these educational pieces that Steampunk and I are doing on Topic Wonders, if you have any suggestions on what would you like us to talk about other than astronomy or different things, please leave in the comments below. If you have any questions for Steampunk or myself, leave a comment below and we'll answer your questions on the next Topic Wonders. But we will be doing more Topic Wonders on the planets because that is a subject of astronomy that I do love that I really don't get to talk about that much. So, very interesting in that. All right. So, hopefully the next time, I mean, we may do another Topic Wonders on, you know, dinosaur species that they found or, you know, marine life or something. It's going to be, you know, basically real topics that is out there. So that's, you know, we can, or it could be politics, wherever it could be.
Yeah, we can talk about the possible Dyson Sphere on the next one if you want.
Yes. All right. So on that note, these Zooms are timed. So before we get the clock coming to countdown, I'm gonna have to go. And I'm gonna get some eggs. I gotta work. Thank you, Steampunk. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
All right. Take care. Bye for now, guys.